Hello, friends. Welcome back to another edition of the Tango Banter. I am Yelizaveta, back with you for another exciting episode. I am freshly back from Portland, Oregon, where I was for a few days teaching another immersion weekend of women leading tango workshop. And I gotta say, it's really exciting to see so much enthusiasm and so much energy in this particular aspect of tango. There are so many amazing women who have such incredible depth and surprising strength and power that once they have the opportunity to express it, it's wonderful to see. So I just again am surprised as well as overjoyed to feel the impact of this work and how unexpected a lot of times it is to work with some women who you might never assume that they might even be interested in leading, and they might have certain types of characteristics about them that you wouldn't guess. You wouldn't think that they would pick it up so well. But over and over again, I'm confronted with this reality that we have powers that we don't even know, latent, laying there inside of us, waiting to be discovered. And one thing I ended up speaking at length about within this workshop, and something I like to come back to throughout my work and my podcast as well as in my writing, is that tango can be a sort of a microcosm, a little blueprint of larger concepts in life. And when we're talking about women leading, we're not just talking about women learning a few new moves. It's a whole different paradigm that we are stepping into as women. And in terms of the social aspect of tango, it can be a real practical way to get in touch with your inner power to apply in larger contexts in life, not just in tango. An example would be something like that as a leader, you have to learn how to initiate the dance, and you have to learn how to capaceo. And for that, you have to be present in your body in a certain way, and you have to be willing to make eye contact, and you have to be willing to be rejected. So such a simple concept, you might think. It's like, yeah, you just learn how to ask for the dance rather than waiting to be asked. But even as I describe this, I'm sure some of you listening, you can feel the layers of anxiety and limitation that you might carry within yourself, that trepidation and that fear of having to put yourself out there and potentially be rejected, and then being competitive, perhaps competing with other leaders. These are all very worthwhile pursuits, I feel, that we as women can practice. And tango provides the space to practice this on a regular basis in terms of a social setting. Whereas in other parts of our lives, we might not have the same opportunity because our daily lives are so prescriptive, and we kind of fall into a routine and we play the roles that we're given, and we might not have the room to experiment with anything else. But for me, tango, and this will be another episode I would like to do, is a very spiritual journey for me. It's been a path to self-discovery, a path to maturity, and a path to growth in many ways. And so with the this work of women leading tango workshops that I've been doing, this is what I set out to contribute on my own end, what I can share that I can feel is useful to the community. And it's really exciting to see the results, the seeds now germinating and growing, and to feel the new wave of dancers coming into the circuit, women who are willing to face the challenge and to embody something new and to experiment with something new. And I'm very hopeful that it will continue, and that perhaps that some of you listening to me who might be just on the edge, I've met lots of people who say things like, I really want to lead and I think I'll be ready in a year. I get that a lot. And I just want to say, why wait a year? Why wait? Why not now? Just go for it. If you have an inclination, if this resonates with you, I encourage you to just step into that and use the resources that are available for you to begin that journey. Even if it means just opening up to the possibility and talking about it. Maybe that's the first step. So I'm here for you. If you want to get more advice, if you need recommendations, if you have certain fears and obstacles in your mind that you feel are limiting you and preventing you from taking those first steps, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you and support you. You can find me on social media at I'm So Tango, and you can always email me as well at connect@imsotango.com. Now, today's topic ties in really nicely to my little soapbox at the beginning, and that is how to get the dances that you really want. And I've been talking about this topic from different directions. We've covered a lot of ground in terms of mindset, in terms of technique, in terms of your perhaps your ability to tell which dancers you want to dance with and why, and developing that awareness of your own body, your own mechanics. And last week's episode was very rich in suggestions about the technical aspect of assessing your own movement and being more responsible for your dance and how you progress as a dancer. Today I want to jump into more of the social aspect and strategies that you can get under your belt to get the dances that you want. So I'm doing this with a few people in mind who've been asking me to do this podcast episode. So you know who you are, and I invite you to take it in and see what resonates, what doesn't. Leave it behind. But I would be very curious if you apply some of these strategies, what your results will be, because all of what I'm about to share is based on the past 12 years of dancing tango in different communities and traveling and going to Buenos Aires and going to festivals and marathons and being part of different communities. And so my experience and my strategies have been something I had to work out for myself because, believe it or not, it was very difficult for me to get the dances that I wanted at the beginning, and there were certain obstacles I had to overcome. So I hope what I'm about to share with you will be useful to you. So first of all, let's talk about what the social dance scene is made up of. Believe it or not, the components of what makes up a social dance scene, whether it's tango or any other dance scene, they're pretty standard. I hope someday there will be more of a systematic assessment of how communities within the dance circles form, because there's some really interesting phenomena that I've observed. And the type of dancers that you end up encountering in different regions and in different cities, they're of a certain type, that you can kind of predict what you're going to experience. So every scene is going to have a number of dancers that fall into certain categories. You'll have the really popular dancers, you'll have the not so popular dancers, and it's kind of like high school, kind of like you have your popular kids, you got the nerds, you got the smart ones, you got the party ones, you got the clowns. And I think that's just the reflection of how we humans organize ourselves, how we form bonds. And it's a very perhaps unconscious and reflexive type of process. Like it's a reflex. Where certain types of personalities fall into certain types of categories. And so what I've realized that tango is no different from any other community. And when you look at it that way, you can start to sort of separate and wrap your mind around what's available, what you want, and how to go after it, basically. So for me, every tango community, and when I say tango community, I'm talking about, let's say, a typical weekly milonga. Let's say we take a typical weekly milonga that's happening in a city that draws a nice crowd, and you have a good variety going on. So typically you'll have, I would say, 4 major categories of dancers that you might encounter that you have to choose from. At the top, I would say at the top of the pyramid, you have your professional dancers. So it might be the visiting teachers, it might be the local teachers, dancers who make their living by teaching privates, performing, and they seem to be sort of the magnet. So they draw the dancers to the milonga. So if you have a visiting teacher and they have a good standing, good reputation, they're well known, people will come because they are attending the milonga. Similar, when you have certain professional dancers that are local, when they go out, it draws a crowd. If they're performing, it draws a crowd. Professional dancers have a very special place in the community. They frequently serve as an inspiration. They perhaps serve as they set the challenge, right? They inspire us to learn new things. They kind of stand outside of the normal social dynamic. Frequently, they don't dance with everyone. They are very selective about who they dance with. They will, sit in the corner at the table with their group of friends, and that's basically what it's going to be for the whole night. They won't really venture out and seek out dances with people they don't know. From time to time, you see professional dancers dancing with their students, which is, one way that logically you can think about it, that if you make a connection with a professional dancer and you form a relationship with them and dance with them in terms of their private class setting, then that connection can yield dancing on the dance floor at the milonga. That definitely happens, and I've done that. So that's at least one aspect that you might consider. But in general, those dancers, the professional ones, they're kind of difficult to nail. They're not really looking to connect with the community in this very practical way of like, let me just dance with as many people as I can in the next few hours. They're more selective. There's a good reason for it a lot of times. They have to dance with a lot of beginners in their privates. They might have to teach a lot of group classes. So, there's only so much you can do with your body. And as a professional dancer, tango dancers, their bodies really get a beating, especially those that, I hear of professional tango dancers that teach like 12 hours a day, 10 people back to back. And it's an enormous amount of impact on the body and psychologically. So if they go out to a milonga, they might feel kind of protective of themselves, and they might think, I just really want to chill. I want to dance with my friends and sort of, be in my own little bubble. And they'll have like this kind of standoffish energy. I know that that energy really bothers people, and it bothers certain dancers. It's bothered me in the past as well, especially when I think, well, what's the point of going to a milonga where there's a hotshot professional dancer, and they're all like, there might be some good dancers that come because of that, but then they're all sitting at a table and they're all kind of like being part of this little club and nobody else is included. And I know there's a lot of conversations about this issue and how to resolve it and how to make sure nobody feels left out. But honestly, the reality is, I think it's a losing battle. You can't really get rid of that. It exists in every type of community, and with tango, in every community, you will feel this sort of separation between the professional dancers and everyone else. That's just kind of the nature of the beast. So there's those dancers. They're kind of at the top of the pyramid. They're the fewest. You have a handful of professional dancers, and they have something about them that's really special. It's very desirable. They're known. You might expect that they have really good technique and musicality. And of course, anytime there's a professional dancer, coming into town, we're automatically, we want to dance with them, right? Because you just you want to experience that. So if there's a chance for that, you want to take it. But I would say it's one of the ones that I'm not really focused on anymore, because for a long time, my identity as a dancer was based on who I got to dance with. And if I got to dance with the local hotshot or the professional dancer, then I would feel good about myself. But then if the next time I didn't get that dance, or I didn't get a dance with another professional dancer, then now I kind of feel bad about myself. So I tend to now not focus too much on those dancers where it's like my ego is at stake here. So I tend to not really care too much about the professional dancers. There's too much buzzing around them anyway. But I'll make some suggestions for those of you who are like, no, I really want to dance with some of these great dancers that are coming into town. I'll give you some suggestions on that. The second tier of dancers, just under the professional dancers, and they frequently band together with the professional dancers, is what I call the cool kids club. And the cool kids are not professional dancers, but they could be if they wanted to. They are very good dancers. They are very gifted, very talented. They have that little bit of that quality that we want, right? They stand out. They're frequently very charismatic. They're very highly desired by everyone. And I should clarify at this point that right now I'm really speaking from the perspective of I'm a woman seeking to dance with professional leaders. So the strategies that I'm going to share, I'm going to speak from that perspective. And I will make some suggestions for other contexts, like if you're a woman trying to capaceo another woman, or a man looking to capaceo higher level women dancers. So I'll make some suggestions about that. But for the most part, the bulk of what I'm talking about is from the perspective of as a woman seeking out dances with higher level leaders. So coming back to the second tier, we have the cool kids. And the cool kids club, I think, can be even more frustrating than the professional, because you really do feel that sort of cliquish nature. Frequently, they all hang out together at a table and they'll dance only with each other, and they won't necessarily reach out and dance with other women. They're not really looking to expand their circle. They don't need to. They have access to really good dancers within their little posse. So they don't have a reason to look outside of that. And sometimes you see them kind of branch out. And it's been my observation that when they do branch out, it's because it's, a dancer who's really hot. So I've seen this a lot where you'll see a certain group, they're all hanging out together and they don't dance with anyone else except for if there's a woman who is, you know, kind of fills the requirements. She's young, she's very beautiful and attractive, and she might not even be a very good dancer. She might be a complete beginner, but there will be an exception made for her because of her looks. And I've seen this happen so many times. And I think when women grumble amongst each other, we grumbled about those kinds of situations. And I've had this happen a lot to me where, I'll be sitting next to someone who is a bare beginner, and maybe they're even so inebriated that they can't walk a straight line, but they're going to get the dance with the hotshot dancer while I'm not. And that happens all the time. And again, it is frustrating. It's a symptom of other systematic things that happen, not just in tango, but culturally, and something that I'm actively proposing solutions to by encouraging women to lead, because we change the stakes, we change the name of the game when we step on the dance floor as leaders, and we speak to that phenomenon of being left out when we know we have better credentials, we have more experience, and therefore we should be more desirable, but yet we get overlooked. That's fine. That exists. And so you have this clique going on, and that happens in every single scene, whether it's Buenos Aires or Dallas, Texas, or, New York, Vancouver, whatever. Like, you go anywhere where there's a big enough scene, you will have this sort of clique energy develop. And frequently the clique energy, the cool kids club with the professional club, like there'll be some crossover there. So if you are a dancer who is part of your local cool kids club, you are part of the game there, then you'll have better chance of actually dancing with the professional dancers. So again, I'll make some suggestions on how to penetrate those circles, because they exist, for different reasons, but there's nothing preventing you or anyone else from becoming part of that group if you really wanted to. So I'll make some suggestions on that. All right, now the third group is the group that I feel makes up the bulk of what's available at any given Milonga, and that's the group that I feel is most useful to draw from. And for lack of a better word, I've decided to call this group connectors, simply because it's dancers who are actively looking to connect and dance with new people, unfamiliar people, beginners, and it's the bulk of the community. I would say maybe like 60% of the community is made up of dancers of different levels, but for the most part, they are eager to connect. They're eager to dance with new people. They're looking to dance with good dancers. Some of them are more picky than others. Some of them have different tastes than others. But overall, you see them. You see them out on the dance floor looking. You see them dancing with different people. So one of the things that you can kind of take note whenever you enter Milonga, and you sense, this is the dancer I want to dance with. Observe who they dance with, right? If you see them dancing with the same people over and over again, or the same two people, or same one person, and they're all sitting at the table over there in the corner, then you have some barriers there because they're not really looking. But you see dancers who are rotating, they're connecting with other dancers, and then it's like the coast is much clearer, and it's some more availability there to connect. Okay, so those connectors are sort of where I spend my time focusing on. And I find that when I started really paying attention to those dancers and drawing from that pool of dancers, I started having a lot more fun at the Milonga in general. The last category I would say are people that are somewhat on the outskirts of the bubble of the community. They might be beginners or people who are new to the scene, not a lot of experience. Maybe they're people who are, have some social awkwardness, or maybe they're coming in from other dances and they don't necessarily have the look of a tango dancer yet. Maybe their technique is a little bit fuzzy and they're dancing something other than tango, and maybe they'll they don't really follow the etiquette very well because whatever, they're ignorant for different reasons. They're new, they're unfamiliar with it, and that's a very real group of people. And every single community has at least a handful of people like that. And it's kind of funny because they always have the same impact. They'll be the people who are like dancing in the middle of the floor, doing some crazy moves from, other traditions with flips and turns, and then, everybody else is complaining about them and ragging on them and grumbling around that. And that's where leaders grumble, right? Women grumble about not being picked or being overlooked for someone else, and leaders grumble about the dance floor, the flow of the line of dance, and the lack of care that some leaders have about other people's space. So it pretty much exists everywhere. So you have these four categories, okay? And so the first thing that you want to do when you're thinking about it strategically, when you go into a milonga, is, as I said, you want to assess what is their realm of dancing that they exist in. Are they just dancing with just a few people? Are they rotating and dancing with different levels of people? And then, of course, in prior episodes, I talked about certain things you want to pay attention to technically to assess who you want to dance with and make your choices that way. So you decide who looks good to you. So for me, let's say I'm going into a milonga, and frequently the first one or two tandas, I'll just kind of sit and watch, especially if I'm thinking about following. It's a little bit different as a leader for me, but as a follower, I'll sit and I'll watch, and I'll kind of see which leaders appeal to me and which ones I want to set my eyes on. And that will be the first step. And I think it's a really important step to make. It's also really applicable if you're the kind of dancer who actually gets too much attention. There's a whole other episode in the works that will be dedicated to those dancers, because sometimes we deal with an opposite problem, too much attention, right? And how to curate your experience so you're not stuck doing what you don't want to do, right? That you do get the dances that you want. So the first thing that you want to do is just become clear to yourself that these are the people you want to dance with. And which means that you might decide in that moment that you're going to say no to other people, right? And that's fine. Everybody should do that. I think it's very important. It's healthy. It's a great practice, especially for women. I think guys, leaders, have to kind of learn to do that right away, because you're the one deciding, you're choosing, right? So you kind of set your eyes on the prize. And for women, we might be in this mindset of just like, we're just going to wait. We're just going to wait to get picked, right? We're just waiting to be acknowledged and be chosen. And it's a good practice to somewhat get out of that mindset. And even though you're on the receiving end, you're looking at the floor critically and you're saying, okay, what do I feel like tonight? How do I want to proceed with my evening? What kind of experience do I want to have? Sometimes I feel very, as I call, my inner badger is out, and I feel very picky, and I only want to dance with certain level of dancers, and I'm not open to anything else. And other times I feel, very lighthearted and playful, and I kind of don't care, and I'm okay with a few wild cards. So decide for yourself what you'd like to experience. And then from there, you need to start using the etiquette, right? The etiquette is there for a reason. And one thing I would encourage all women, because I really see women struggling with this the most, is really amp up your Capaceo game. And by amping up your Capaceo game, what I mean is become more obvious, okay? I've run into this myself, is that sometimes, especially because I lead as well, sometimes the person that I want to dance with, they can't tell that I'm actually capaceoing them, because they just might not be aware that I'm in that mood for following, or they might not even think that I want to dance with them. You'd be surprised how many times, women think, oh, that person doesn't want to dance with me, but that person doesn't actually know you want to dance with them. So I encourage you to make your Capaceo very obvious. And that does not mean that you walk up to that person and stand, 2 feet away and stare them in the eyes. Like, that's uncomfortable. And people will run from that, as they should. I do myself. If I feel that energy from someone, leader or follower, I really do a lot to deflect it. And that goes for verbal invitations. Some of you who've run into me at festivals, you might have even, experienced it firsthand or observed me doing that. If somebody comes up to me and verbally asks me to dance, a lot of times I'll say no. And it's not because I don't want to dance with that person. It's because I prefer following the Capaceo etiquette. And, other times I break that rule with friends, with people I already know. But for the most part, I encourage people to stick to the Capaceo etiquette, because it's a really nice structure of asking someone to dance, and it provides a lot of space for both people to feel, like your boundaries are being respected. So if you have a leader that you're really wanting, you want to get up out of your seat. Don't be in a seat. If you're really searching out someone, you're willing to dance with them, don't remain in your seat. Go see where they are and stand in their line of dance. Make it obvious that you're looking at them. Lock eyes on them, and do not move your eyes until they look at you. If they don't look at you, maybe they didn't see you at that point. Maybe they don't want to dance with you. Whatever. But your job is to make it really obvious. And sometimes I'll even stand with my hands behind my back. I stand in a way that other people will know who I'm looking at, which I know this is a scary place to be, because one of the things that we want to prevent is from being obviously rejected, right? We want to hide it from other people. And I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying make it obvious to others and this person that you want to dance with them. So then you have your proposition. If the person turns around and doesn't look back at you, and you kind of gather that they don't want to dance with you, that's fine. Move on to someone else. It might be because it's that tanda. It's the music. They don't want to dance to that music. It might be because they want to dance with someone else. It might be because they don't know you. There's all these reasons. But most of those reasons have nothing to do with the fact that that person doesn't like you, or that they think you're not a good dancer already. They just might not know you. So you make an attempt. You make it obvious that you want to dance with them from a distance, and that's your first goal. That's your first move. it will be a different move if you're targeting more seasoned professional cool kids club dancers. So this is for the connector tier or for the outsiders. So that works really well. If you are the kind of person who really likes to connect with new people and you like making new people feel welcome, that is a great strategy for you to just capaseo those people and make it really obvious, because a lot of times there's a mindset thing going on that they're just not even aware. And I should have said this at the beginning before you even do any of these strategies. The mindset is so freaking important. So important to set aside your insecurities for the time being, or your feeling of like, woe is me, nobody wants to dance with me because I gained 5 pounds, or I look fat, or I have a mole on my face, or, I just even talked to a woman who's like, I got braces and people stopped dancing with me. And I think that might be true, but it's just as likely or even more likely that it's the psychological stance of that person to say, oh, I know nobody's going to want to dance with me because I myself am not attracted to me right now because I have XYZ. And that mindset is something that people will really feel energetically, and they will unconsciously respond to it. So I encourage you to, if you're going to go down this road of like, I really want to dance with this and this and this person, then the first thing you do, you set your mindset. You set your eyes on the prize, set aside all of that negative self-talk that's, like, yeah, it's there, whatever, but your eyes are on the prize, right? And so the first thing is decide who you're going to dance with. Next is bring up your capaceo game for sure. And along with that goes the practice of saying no to what you don't want. So frequently women will be like, well, I want to dance with this guy, but I didn't get the dance, but this other person asked me and I didn't want to miss out on a tanda, so I went ahead and danced with them. That's something you're going to have to decide in the moment, but be willing to not get the tanda. Be willing to sit out a tanda. That's just the name of the game. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. That's okay. Now, after the capaceo game, the next piece of advice is something actually that I found very useful, and that's the one that I would say is useful to apply with getting dances with more, with higher level professional and the cool kids club, and that is befriend the women. Talk to the women. Make friends with them. And what I mean is not like you're going to go and awkwardly try to sit at their table and strike up a conversation, but look for opportunity to compliment them. If you see them in the bathroom, oh, I love your dress. Oh, I was watching you and I really noticed this and this. And ask them about themselves, or, not in the creepy way, but just genuinely look to connect with the women. And that's a long-term kind of strategy as well, to build relationships with the women, because guess what? The women are going to introduce you to their friends who are the dancers. And frequently, I've ended up dancing with the people I wanted because of that connection. So striking up conversations with women outside of the dance floor environment. Maybe there's a bar or an area where people are socializing, and you just go over there casually and look for a way to compliment someone. And again, you're putting yourself out there, and maybe it doesn't come back to you the way you would like. Maybe the person's like kind of stuck up and they're like, yeah, whatever. But just practice being generous. You'll be surprised how many times you'll find that the person's actually enamored with you too, and they just didn't have the opportunity to share that with you. So it really works. So with the cool kids table, with those people who are kind of sitting with each other, your strategy might be to strike conversations with women outside of their little circle, and just start to kind of have that bridge, building that bridge over time. And it really does help, to kind of connect you more in the community and get you to connect with other people. And so this strategy then relates to my ultimate advice, my ultimate strategy. This is the strategy I think that will pay off in the long run. Maybe not immediately, but as you get better at it, I would say it's a very handy tool, a handy skill to have. And that is to connect with people outside of the dance context. So what do I mean by that? Let's say that you have your eyes on a particular professional dancer, and you can tell that they're open to dancing with people outside of their immediate circle. But you can tell there's a lot of demand, there's some competition. What I would do is look for opportunity to connect with them off the dance floor in a genuine way where you're just connecting with them, chatting with them bantering, with no agenda, right? This is a tricky one in that way. You got to just let go of the agenda of dancing with them and make it a point that you just want to connect with them personally, right? You're not looking, there's no kind of like wanting to weasel your way into their good graces. This has to come from a very selfless place, out of your heart, genuine, okay? Every single person will appreciate that, especially those who are professional dancers in high demand, where they're constantly having to fight off that energy of, that hopeful look of the dancer who's really wanting to dance with them. I've been on both ends of this spectrum, of both ends of this transaction, where I've hounded dancers that I want to dance with. I've told this story many times when I first came to Portland, Oregon, and I really wanted to dance with Alex Krebs, who was recommended to me by my teacher in Texas. I was told he was the best dancer in the city, and I absolutely must dance with him. And in my mind, I was like, there's no way I can leave Portland without dancing with him. And I spent the first couple of nights trying to get his attention, and eventually ended up sending a Facebook message asking him to dance with me. And that's how I got my dance. And I'm not recommending you do that. It puts a lot of pressure on the person. And granted, Alex Krebs is one of the most generous dancers and people that I've ever met in tango. So he obliged and he did dance with me, and I'm super grateful for that. But I also know how it can make things uncomfortable to be so, sought after, when people are really, really trying to get your attention. So I think that if you come at it without that agenda and just make friends, just have a conversation as a way of getting to know the person, I think that makes it much more, it makes you stand out in that person's mind in a different way. And so I'll share my experience of this happening on the other end is that I was at a marathon a few years ago, and frequently as a woman leader, this happens to me a lot, where women come to me and they strike up a conversation with the intention of asking me to dance. And they just kind of are, they're waiting for an in. And, it makes things uncomfortable for me. And so when I was at the beginning of my journey, I had to still develop the skills of how to navigate around that. And frequently I would just have this sense of you know what, let's just get it over with. Do you want to dance? like I see what you're doing. I can feel it. I don't like it. I actually don't want it right now, but I don't want to let you down. So let's just get it over with. Not a great mindset to come from. I really try not to fall into that now. And recently I think I did break some hearts a little bit, because I obviously, kind of indicated that I did not want to dance and chose someone else. And I think that probably hurt people's feelings. But I feel like it's a better place to come from than feeling obligated. So again, it's that little bit of maturity and learning how to hold your space and all of the skills that I'm talking about are very helpful, very useful in other situations. So this woman comes up to me and she strikes up a conversation, and I'm chatting with her, and so I say, eventually I said, well, would you like to dance? And she says, oh, no, that's not why I'm here. I just really wanted to come and chat with you. I would not do that to you, and she was so adamant about it. And I remember when she said that, I just felt so much relief. And it was so kind of her to do that, to turn me down in this way. And so I ended up having, the rest of the Tanda just chatting with her. And I did Capacea her later. Like I did, because I appreciated so much that she was just there to talk to me. And she was adamant about sticking to that because, for her, she could have just agreed to the dance and could have been in her mind like, oh, bonus, I didn't really come for this, but here I am getting this dance. But she was kind of the first time that I really appreciated somebody really sticking to the etiquette of Capaceo, because traditionally, the etiquette, you stand away from the person, you catch their eye. And so that's actually a lot of times what I'll do, even with people that I know that they want to dance with me and it would be easier, for me to just ask. I'll frequently choose to have a conversation, and then I'll walk away and then I'll Capaceo them, just to kind of keep that clarity of what is actually happening. So I think this last strategy is probably the best one for penetrating any circle. It's a long-term strategy, and with professional dancers, obviously, like, you have to see whether they're even open to it. A lot of times they're not. And if they're not, if you can tell that there's, sometimes, the professional dancers, they'll come out to smoke or something, and I'll come out, and I'll stand next to them, and I'll make a comment of some kind, or give an entry into a conversation, and they just won't take it. They'll be on their phone, or they'll quickly finish what they're doing and walk off. And if that happens, that's a clear sign to me, like, not happening, there's no way forward here, and I'm just going to give up on that. But other times, there will be a way in, and I'll have a conversation, and I'll use that as a way to build relationship with someone. And if I can convey to them that I'm interested in them genuinely for who they are, and I'm not trying to get a dance out of them, and if they feel it through and through, not like I'm coming back into Malanga and now I'm trying to Capaceo them, like, not that, but like I have a conversation, then I walk off, and whatever. Frequently that will result in them later Capaceoing me, and so that's a good, that's something worthwhile to invest, even if you don't get the dance. I think it promotes a more genuine place to come from, and a vulnerability that is refreshing. And I think it guarantees that something interesting will come out of it. It might not be a dance, but maybe it will be an interesting conversation, or somebody else might come in. So ultimately, I've talked for a while. This is probably the longest episode I've done, and I'm realizing, I can keep going because there's just so many situations that are the exceptions to the rule. But in general, I would say the first thing, if you have that goal, you want to break out and dance with, visiting teachers, or you want to befriend some of the higher level dancers and dance with them, your strategy can be more about the social connections rather than thinking about taking more classes so that you perfect your technique so that you get chosen, or wearing something more revealing so that you attract the attention, right? Your strategies can be very much about the social strategies, social connections. So first, tune your mindset. What is it that you really want? Second, choose those dancers that you want to target. Really, really assess who you want to connect with. Then turn on your Capaseo game. Make it very obvious, right? The next one, befriend the women. That should be a general terms of engagement anyway for all sorts of purposes, but connect with women off the dance floor, strike up conversations, look up for opportunities to compliment or say something kind, just as a way of continuously building your connections with the community. And then lastly, strike up conversations with the leaders outside of the dance floor. Look for opportunities to genuinely connect and appreciate them for who they are, offering nothing but kindness, right? Not looking for that, into their dance circle, and let it from there. Just let it happen naturally. If it doesn't happen, it's just not in the cards for now. You will gain other benefits from doing these types of strategies. You'll be surprised how many surprising encounters and experiences you will have with other people just by aiming at something and not getting it, So, all right, I'll finish off here. It was a long episode. Those of you who stuck with me the whole way, I appreciate your support, your time, your energy. Keep it coming. I really, so much of what I draw my inspiration from, where I get my fuel, is from you, from your sharing, your journeys, your experiences. So I really appreciate it. I know I didn't talk too much about the other situations of, whether if you're a leader or if you're a woman who is capaceoing other women, but I think you can get the point that you can adapt your strategies. Some of these are going to really overlap, and the one that overlaps the most is this genuine connection, looking to genuinely connect with people, or genuinely, avoid people. Like, just being genuine, being clear with what you want is really the name of the game, whichever role you're coming from, whichever end result you want. So I'll leave it at that and see what comes next, and maybe we'll do another episode on this topic. But I think this is a good start. So mull this over, try it out, let me know, and maybe you have some other strategies that work best for you that you found helpful. Maybe you are part of the in crowd and you have some suggestions. Let me know. Share them with me. Send me a message on social media or email. I'd love to hear from you. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a wonderful time dancing. Hope to see you on the dance floor. Those of you locally in LA, I'll be dancing this weekend. I'm DJing Thursday night at Oxygen Tango if you're around. And I'll see you. I'll talk to you next week at the next Tango Banter. Ciao.